Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by robotic process automation pioneer Blue Prism. Digital transformation has the potential to reshape the way companies service their customers, engage their employees, and manage their operations. Whether you're looking to develop strategies, tactics, and best practices to positively impact the future of work, or you're curious to learn how other companies have successfully navigated their digital transformation programs, then this podcast is for you. We're here to help you transform now.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Michael Marchuk, and today on the Transform Now podcast, we have our special guest, Sumit Banerjee, Partner and Managing Director for BCG out of the Washington, D.C. office. Sumit is one of the authors of an article titled Transforming Telcos with Artificial Intelligence, and that's what we'll be talking about today on our episode. Welcome, Sumit.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to join us. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at BCG?
Absolutely. I'm part of BCG's telco leadership team and lead our relationships with several telcos, tower companies, and network infrastructure companies. I'm also part of BCG's AI leadership team and co-lead it for the TMT practice globally. In the context of AI, I work with companies using digital technologies and AI to unlock new sources of economic value.
So BCG has developed a framework for the company of the future that they describe as the Bionic company. What does this look like within a telco environment?
It's a great question. When you look at digital maturity for telcos, it's actually typically higher than most industries. And that has been the case going back last many years. However, we are starting to see that stagnate a little bit. It is stagnating, especially in developed economies, whether it's Europe or Asia, and in parts of actually Europe and USA, and in parts of Asia, it's actually struggling quite a bit. And the reasons for it are manifold. We see constant pressure on revenue versus investment in digital. That's a challenge everywhere. Struggle to acquire the right digital talent and retain them even if you have to acquire them. It's often not on top of leadership agenda year to year because digital and AI takes, these are often year-long and multi-year processes. And finally, struggling to find in the balance speed versus impact from a long-term capability. Right? So when you take those two things into account, what we BCG frame is a target state for a Bionic Telco company. And there are 4 components to it. Number 1 is strategy and purpose. Making sure the strategy and purpose of a telco is very well defined in the context of why, what, and how of the Bionic pillars, which I'll talk about. Also making sure that the outcomes and enablers are clearly articulated with the business goals. That's number 1. Number 2 is having a clear set of Bionic outcomes. And there are 6 of them. The first is a very strong customer experience and relationship. Within that, like having a hyper-personalized value proposition, which means simple, integrated, and modular products as per customer life cycle. Second is customer excellence. So reimagining customer journeys, which are, goes from digital to human and vice versa. You're able to use self-service as much as you can. Then gets into sales and marketing, which is both B2B and B2C. So here we're talking about robust backend operations to enable digital sales, setting demand center, data-driven insight sales, customer success management, etc. The fourth one is network operations. So we're talking about whether it's fiber rollout or 5G or small cell, a clear set of planning around network rollout and maintenance supported by end-to-end analytics. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And on the product side, talking about end-to-end digital ecosystem, where you talk having a clear set of custom propositions through alliances and partnerships with OTT players, social media platforms, etc. And a newer set of opportunities, which we are seeing more probably in Europe and Asia Pac, which is around ICT, cloud technologies, media payments, and leveraging cybersecurity, advertising, etc. So those are what I would call the Bionic outcomes. The third state for it, Bionic Telco, is around technology, which is around data and digital platform. In the context of data, it's about having an integrated data structure to mirror the core layer so that you can maintain a single source of truth. Having a flexible and modern data architecture that takes into account some of the newer technologies and tech stack that is required to support the Bionic transformation. Then there is the IT infrastructure to back it up, which is the IT infrastructure. One of the things we often see in Bionic, and whether it's Bionic in the context of digital AI or broader, is that the business and IT are not fully aligned. So making sure that IT architecture is very well aligned with the technical and business requirements, and adopting some of the newer technologies, especially like DevOps, especially in terms of building 5G networks, which factors in like RAN, long-term tech roadmaps, cybersecurity, etc. And finally, making sure the network infrastructure is designed in a way which reduces complexity. So, example, limited site configuration, RAN standardization, and as I said, things around data access and security, which are becoming more and more important. Finally, the last thing around human org, which is talent and ways of working. So making sure you have enough digitally talented people in terms of people who are able to drive the new thinking, the decision making, and the execution that is required. This is one of the areas we find telcos often struggling, their ability to hire and retain the talent, because those talents are in high demand, and they can probably do similar kind of work at a premium price point. So that's the fourth piece we look at. So across those four areas, a clear set of strategy, a set of Bionic or business outcomes, technology around data and digital platform, and in the human, which is the org talent and ways of working, is what we define for Bionic Telco.
So the world has been experiencing the great resignation, and you've mentioned that finding the right talent is important. What can telcos do now specifically to attract the right people to advance their AI initiatives?
I think the telcos are already doing many of the things I'll talk about, and I would say some of them are doing it really well. One is making the work attractive. Oftentimes telcos do really good work, but it gets buried into some of the legacy work and not talking enough about it. That's one. Second is talking about the quality of the work and the business outcome telcos are driving. Much high-end technology work, whether it's on cybersecurity, whether it's on AI or on digital, whether it's on 5G planning, is actually happening in telco. Is oftentimes the challenge is letting the talent pool know that what's happening and in the role they can play in really defining and shaping some of those newer areas. The third is compensation. End of the day, compensation matters a lot. And I think this is where telcos are really up their game and trying to get to market parity with some of the social media platform companies, also providing the stability and the working hours, the lifestyle values, which talent pools values. And then I would say a clear promotion path. So one of the things what the talent pool often is seeing a clear set of journey. If you join today, yes, I can go in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years out. And sometimes those things were taking longer in going back a few years in the telco. Now those things are a little more cleaner. You can come in as a digital talent, AI native talent. You can come in as a heavy analytics guru and have a clear set of promotion for journeys, compensated by a clear and high-end compensation pool, high quality work, lifestyle values. So when you combine all of those things together, it's a strong value prop, and I would say it's a strong value prop in probably in some markets more than others, but the telcos are definitely up there.
Well, that makes sense. In your article, you mentioned that telcos across the globe are facing challenges in several interlinked areas. I was hoping you could describe what those are and how automation and AI can address those challenges.
Yeah. So I'd say the telcos have four primary challenges they're facing. Number one is demand, which is all about reinventing the customer experience. Number two is supply, which is reconfiguring the supply chain, which has really gotten impacted by COVID, some of the issues coming from China, etc., and also how to manage optimizing the 5G rollout. Number three is operations, which is automating network maintenance and cognitive customer service, again, something which is of critical importance given COVID. And business foundations, building crisis-proof processes and functions such as sales, customer experience, delivery. Let's take one at a time. On the demand side, if we go with the assumption that the hybrid model is now the new normal and is here to stay, there's an opportunity for telcos to drive additional growth in customer engagement. AI has, I think, enabled telcos with unparalleled potential to capture this opportunity by enabling to reinvent the relationship with the customer, which means more digital, more self-service, 24/7, seamless integration between human and digital, allowing more hyper-personalized identification of current and future customer needs. So somebody, for the telco to know before somebody comes into a store, like what he or she is about to buy, for the telco to know before somebody calls in why he or she is about to call, so which is on the spot, proactive, and also managing hyper-personalized one-to-one contact backed by immersive customer experience, which is AR, VR, or in the newer world, think Meta, and better product bundles. So those things can enable telcos to have a better view of the demand side. Similarly, on the supply side, the supply chain risk will remain high for the operators, whatever the intensity and rhythm of COVID scores over the next, couple of years. Few things telcos can do, and they're already doing. One is, the central load of connectivity and AI across all steps of the supply chain, what you're calling smart manufacturing. So having that view and connectivity is very important. Second is not only a smart 5G deployment, what we're calling a smarter 5G deployment, which is strategically expanding network and utility of smart manufacturing hubs. And you've seen Intel making some announcements here, and that enables them to drastically increase deployment velocity and not always been dependent on the offshore supply chain. The third is around digital twins. This has been talked about in the context of telco and broader, which is embracing and capitalizing on cognitive supply chain modeling, so that when to order what the supply chain demand is going to be like, and having a network operations and finance in the end-to-end view of things. The fourth is, the decentralization on the demand 3DP nodes. So this is really about real-time replacement of ancillary parts, utilizing AI and blockchain-based protocols to protect IP, because here both the supply and the security aspect of it is critical. And finally, a highly efficient marketplace platform, which is meeting the spike in demand and differentiating to customer needs. So that's on the supply side. If you move from there to the operations side, it's all about accelerating the move telcos have already made towards automated predictive operations and customer service. Two things are, when it comes to operations, we're seeing a dramatic impact on the call centers. The pressure and fault resolution will dramatically increase, and has increased actually because of effective service and maintenance operations, whether it's in call centers and field force, challenged by potential staff shortage, limited access to sites, your inability to go inside somebody's house, sometimes constraints on critical equipment, components, etc. So that's on the field and the call center side. Then there's the issue of network overload. As more and more people work from home, schools are going to hybrid on and off. There's definitely the network overload comes into play. And in this context, both for customer service and field force, and AI is proven, to be a must-have. It's no longer nice to have, because it frees up time allocated on simple tasks to refocus employees on the most critical ones. It can help customer service to support remote customer more efficient and faster. As I said, it's about being on the spot, proactive, knowing, even before somebody calls in, why somebody is calling it, and also backed by cognitive technologies like chatbots, which lets the customer to use voice-based or text-based chatbots. Similarly, on the network side, AI-powered solutions can enable smart management and maintenance of operator network. So that allows them to know where the load is, balancing load, proactively maintaining the network, upgrading the network. And that does release some of the pressure from the field force. Finally, on the business side, it's all about making the business foundations crisis-proof, which is essentially means more flexible and more agile, allowing faster disruption recovery. And all of that really starts with protecting the employees, their well-being, and that always has to be the first priority. I think the other thing we are seeing is that it's also enabling the telcos to rally strongly around a renewed sense of purpose in the telco industry. It can contribute to increasing employee satisfaction and well-being. It can also help with upskilling for an accelerated rebound. One of the questions you asked earlier, like how do you hire digital talent? I think it's also equally important, like how do you empower and upskill the telco talent, which has been there going back 10, 15, 20 years. And this is where AI can play a really critical role. Just training them up for newer areas within digital AI analytics, using AI in different functional activities, and also limiting the time dedicated to repetitive activities. And finally, enabling that operators are introducing AI smartly in a way that employees may worry about losing the job, ultimately embrace the technology as more as a productivity tool, both for the job and their resume. And that is a fundamental mind shift, both from an employee perspective and a telco perspective, where they start seeing AI as an enabler, which makes them successful both in the short term and the long term.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned and you touched on this, how AI has various roles within the supply and the demand, et cetera. And in the article, you actually go into some more details related to reducing costs and boosting revenues across the entire value chain. Where do you see AI having the biggest benefit or biggest impact within the telco environment?
I think from our perspective, AI opportunities are present across telcos' entire core value chain, as you said. Collectively, we believe these measures can improve revenue by up to 10% and reduce costs up to by 20%. And some telcos have done more than that. Let's take each function at a time, and I can walk you through where we see the most impact. If you start with sales and marketing, there are many things within sales and marketing where AI plays a critical role. First is promotion effectiveness, which is around personalizing, contextualizing campaigns at scale and real time. Second is targeted customer acquisition, targeting a new customer acquisition based on microsegments or based on geolocation. That's now being powered by AI. Thirdly, on pricing, differentiated pricing based on selected micro markets, and also real-time outbound and retail store sales, and also in the online world. Fourth is lead gen, where we're talking of next best offer, which has been there for many years, but AI and advanced machine learning, NLP, languages, etc., add significantly turbocharge the lead gen process. And finally, it's about churn management, identifications of key drivers of churn and attrition. Again, that's something has been done by classical analytics, but AI has given it a leg up. So that's within the context of sales and marketing. If you go from there around product, service, and AI can play a critical role. First is really understanding the data-driven customer insight. So leveraging multiple data sources to understand what product and services a telco customer will buy, whether it's on the wireless side, on the wireline side, or bundles. And also on the OTT content side, sourcing of content aligned with customer demand. So you're essentially offering to the customer a set of product services, old and new, and set of content, which is very targeted, very personalized. Then on the third-party data monetization side, their ability to anonymize and aggregate data and package it in a way both for their internal use and third-party use. Again, many telcos have done this, some probably with more success than the other. And then leveraging customer geolocation to push targeted ads. So really knowing where the customer is or where a set of customers are, the ability to target billboards to map to that. So that's on the product and services side. If you move down on the operations side, there are many things where AI is being used, and I'll hit on a few of them. One is credit rating. This is about identification of credit risk by customer group and the ability to forecast the risk exposure. And this is quite important, especially for, I would say, mid-sized telco, tier 2 telcos, where they probably the risk management, they have to take higher risk to get to a higher customer base, exposes them to, obviously, on the flip side, more exposure to risk. And AI kind of helps you manage which customer to go after, and where essentially you should say, even though I want to go after, my models are telling me that this customer is probably going to default or going to churn. Related to it is on collection. So differentiated collection process based on customer characteristics. So knowing really which customers delayed because of genuine reasons, but they'll pay, and knowing which customers are just bad players. And also using social media to look at bad players, connecting their online profile with their customer profile. So that's become quite important. The other thing is I talked about the process optimization. So this is coming across the entire value chain. Optimizing the process, whether in any of the function in the HR, finance, marketing, compliance. A lot of the processes which are manual now can be automated, can be optimized. And in many of the processes, AI can give you an answer which is probably definitely faster and oftentimes much better. So that allows people in operations need to do their job in a much more fast and effective way and really focus on the things which are higher value, or focus on customer, which what a telco would call a premium customer. So that's on the operations side. Now, from there, if you go to network and IT, there's a plethora of work that's happening in the telco world right now around AI. First is network asset optimization, which is about rationalizing assets and improving utilization based on usage and machine-generated data. Fault management, I talked about, preemptive in upkeep and maintenance to prevent outages. This has become critical importance in today's world when we're doing a lot of work from home. And your upstream speed has become as important as your downstream speed. 5G deployment, this is an area which is tremendous amount of money is being spent. And what AI and automation is able to do is actually help you accelerate the deployment, do it in a much more planned way, at the same time reduce the CapEx and OpEx spend. So whether it's through market simulation, advanced supply chain, advanced permitting and routing, that lets you plan all those things much better. At the same time, manage your costs because you can coordinate supply chain much more with your plan as compared to the past. Also, I think cross-functional view of things, what you're calling a digital twin. So letting the commercial, the operational, financial, and network activities. So a company, imagine if a company or a telco can see it end to end. So finance knows when to invest in the 5G deployment and actually start spending more money on the marketing. When network knows exactly when to deploy and where to deploy. When operations knows when to back it up with the field force people and to shift the labor pool, which is in high demand right now, when to do that. So all of this is done in coordination, what we're calling the digital twin. It helps tremendously with 5G deployment. And the last is field force labor optimization. We talked about the talent pool, the digital talent pool, but probably one of the most challenging labor optimization area for telcos now is field force. As more and more the elderly talent pool starts retiring, there is a tremendous shortage of people in the field right now. And then there are constraints are like where they can go, their ability to work remotely. So a lot of work has happened and continue to happen on automation, both on managing the field personnel and their ability to do their work remotely. And backed by, as I said, COVID constraint, travel destination, different states have different rules in terms of what one cannot do. So some of the things to keep in mind. And finally, I think is all process optimization, which I said earlier, which is like improving the efficiency of internal processes in IT, HR, finance, administration. And if we take all those things together, we think AI can generate improvement in revenue of up to 10% higher and reduce costs by 20% and higher.
It sounds like AI and automation can make a significant impact across the whole operation within a telco. And I know in your article you mentioned several takeaways from leaders in the industry that could make a big difference on how telcos reinvent themselves. I was wondering if you could share how those leaders are breaking through the roadblocks to deploying automation and AI.
Absolutely. And we, BCG, work a lot with telcos when it comes to AI. We work on core AI topics, which is like, how do you drive AI at scale in large telcos? We also work on, functional AI topics in terms of AI in a certain function, as in HR, marketing, sales, etc. And what we're seeing is, look, almost all telcos have invested heavily in AI. AI is not a new thing for telcos. The main challenges for telcos have been oftentimes scaling up these initiatives. We see telcos who are winning in AI are those who are reinventing themselves by integrating AI at the heart of their core products and processes. Because one of the things we often see is that AI is a side initiative. AI has been done oftentimes in silo with the core operations. And that doesn't work. What we recommend that you start with AI on core products and processes. Some of the things I talked about, sales and marketing, network and operations, customer service, IT. Because if you do that, then really AI is at core at everything we're doing. And to do AI can start from strategic priorities, which to determine which are the ones which create the highest value. So that's why we always recommend start with the core, make AI core to everything you do in the product marketing, sales, etc. Build use cases around it, build priorities around it, and from there, go into adjacencies. So that's number one. The second thing, what we are seeing many telcos do, and what we are saying they continue to do, is that stimulate AI ownership at the top of the organization. AI requires a fundamentally different mindset. So therefore, preparing employee for change is critical. And to drive this change, the employees have to see C-level ownership and support. So we have to simulate and stimulate AI ownership among leadership, telco ExCom members, and to assign clear accountabilities for delivering the outcome and the value through the whole journey. The talent pool, the employees who are working on the AI are making it better on the AI, they need to see that the leadership is invested in it. They're talking about it, and they can count on the leadership to go on this journey. And the only way to do that is to start from the top. The third thing to talk about is the full potential of Agile. We believe can be a strong catalyst, if not a prerequisite for telcos to unlock the power of AI. And what Agile does is allow them to embrace cross functionality and adopt a more flexible and value-driven approach, all of which is must have to scale up AI. But telcos, compared to other industries, actually fairly advanced in Agile ways of working. In fact, many telcos will say they actually invented Agile. So for them, while Agile is easy to use, but it will be a great benefit from the build, on their Agile advantage, their cross-functional Agile approach, and focus on at least one or two AI tangible products and scale their team up from there, so that you have the planning, the resourcing, the project management, the financing to back it up, and it's done in a very agile way. So that's the third thing. And if you go down the list, I think there are two other things I'd love to talk about, which is about future-proofing data and tech assets. That's the fourth thing. End of the day, data is what fuels AI machine, and tech assets are what allows data to fuel this AI machine. Therefore, I think it's critical for telcos to continue to dedicate strong efforts to ensure that data and tech assets are ready for the AI age. This requires oftentimes two essential elements: establishing clear data governance, ensuring the data is usable, consistent, and valuable, and revamping IT architecture to make it more flexible and robust. This last point is also particularly important if you think of overcoming what we see in many telcos, complexity of IT legacy, multiple billing systems, and breaking the silos that are required within AI and the business side and across functional systems in order to scale AI. I cannot overemphasize the importance of it. Finally, the last thing, it all goes back to people. So invest in people to activate in-depth change. So in this unsettled times, as things are, employees' fear can slow or derail adoption of AI. I think it's really important for the frontline manager, execs to explain what they're doing and why they're doing it in context of AI. So as long as the things are articulated, communicated, backed up by senior leadership, over-communicated, the employees get to see the power of AI, they see the value of AI. And for that to happen, it is really important for telcos to invest in over-communication, skill building, and on-the-job training, so that they can back up many of the things I talked about.
Wow, there's a lot that you covered today. There are so many things I see that telcos are doing right now and what they could be doing. So I really appreciate you for joining us on the podcast today to provide your insights into the application of automation and AI within the telco industry. I think it was a very interesting view into the opportunities that telcos have to not only increase their operational efficiencies, but also their top line revenues. I'll put a link to the article that we discussed in the show today to allow our listeners to dive deeper into the topics you discussed today. But Sumit, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. Great talking with you.
Thanks for tuning in to Transform Now. For more insightful discussions on digital transformation and more, check out our podcast channel where you'll find all of our previous episodes. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what you heard, please leave us a review. For more information about digital transformation and the future of work, check out blueprism.com to learn how Blue Prism's digital workforce is enabling enterprise transformation now.